You're tuned into Human by AI with Ashish Garg. Real, unscripted conversations about how humans and AI are shaping the future of community finance. Grab your favorite drink and let's dive in.
Okay, welcome back to another edition of Human by AI. I have Shirley Senn, a lady with the most interesting last name I've ever come across. When she said Senn, I said, ma'am, what does that really mean? So what does that mean, my lady?
So the easiest way to say it is when somebody's like we get Sheen, Sean, I just say, just think about sinning at church. So just take the N-I-N-G off, and so it's pronounced sin. The irony is my father-in-law is a pastor, so we get lots of fodder for sin walking through the door. Look, there's the sinners, or
I see.
yeah, it gives good conversation.
That's wonderful, ma'am. That's wonderful. And Shirley, for our audience, can you tell us a little bit about where do you live, where do you work, and how did you come to this movement?
So first of all, I entered the movement in 1991.
I see.
So I've been in and seen a lot of changes. I mean, obviously AI wasn't even a thought back in the early 90s. We were still using dial phones. We didn't have computer. Matter of fact, we had one computer in our entire computer in our credit union. But this movement, I think, was just a natural extension of myself, and that I love people. I love helping people. And when I came into this mission, I was working at Merrill Lynch for about 4 or 5 years, and just realized that there just was not enough empathy and passion in that side of the financial services.
Yeah.
And really fell into working with credit unions by accident, and just have never left in the last 34 years. I've had a big transition in my career working from like the corporate credit union side. I worked on the vendor partner side for 10 years with CDFI credit unions, which led me to where I'm at today, which is at New Orleans Firemen's Federal Credit Union, which is in Louisiana. But with technology today, I live in Tennessee.
I see.
So it gives us the ability to adapt and still have those human touches per se when we have the visits, but also to stay in touch virtually through, the technology we have today.
Yeah. And let's get into our topic, ma'am, human by AI. But before getting the human touch, let's talk about AI for a moment.
Yes.
Are you a AI skeptic, which is okay, or an AI believer?
I use it, but I also believe in it. And I think there's a balance between the two, because I think there's such a broad overview of what AI represents. So, when we talk about, I use AI, you're like, what part of AI? I mean, it can be used in anything. And I think I believe in the context of how it can help improve what we're already doing in the human side. And I think it elevates our impacts. It can elevate what we're doing to be more efficient. But just as a simple human being, there's so many things that we get bogged down with on a day-to-day basis that don't allow us a lot of times to do what we really believe in, what we really want to do, what we do as credit unions. And so there's a balance, I think, with all of that.
Yes. And ma'am, are there any areas in your personal life or even within your credit union you really started utilizing AI? Any examples?
Yes, actually. I have not been an eloquent writer. I was a technical writer for a long time. I was trying to go from being a technical writer to a creative writer is a definite shift.
Yeah.
So I started using ChatGPT to kind of help be very brutal about my writing. And so it was interesting as that evolution started to occur. Obviously, ChatGPT was one of the first ones, and starting to use some of the other tools like Claude and Perplexity really started to open up a much larger gamut of how all these tools could be used for my writing. And so I have used that, and it came into usefulness last year when my dad entered hospice and I became a caregiver. And I wanted to journal a lot of this information. And so when you're just putting your thoughts out there on paper and you want to clean them up, make them, sound a little bit better, that's when the ChatGPT really came in, and using the AI, it opened up a whole nother world of how to be a better caregiver, actually. And when we talk about AI, obviously being the artificial side, it's very interesting to see as it starts to learn about us, how humanizing it becomes in terms of being empathetic. Obviously we know it's not human, but to just see how that technology can work. So that's really where I started really getting involved in the AI. And then I realized it could help me be more efficient at home. I have now started writing my own agents so that it starts to pull in my news in the morning. So when I wake up for my cup of coffee, my news is ready to go. I have it clean up my emails in the morning. So I'm learning how to kind of have my own employee base without having to spend any money on employees.
What? Can you give me a high five on that?
You gotta be efficient when you're a caregiver and you're running 2 businesses and you're working for a credit union and supporting a household.
That's amazing, my lady.
But it's a tool that I think everybody needs to use
Yeah.
when it's done responsibly.
Yeah. That's amazing. So next thing I want to explore is the human touch, ma'am.
Yes.
And I come from Silicon Valley. That's where I live right now. And there's a lot of hearsay around how AI is going to impact the job market. A lot of jobs are going to be lost.
Yeah.
Which I think, personally, I'd love for you to correct me. There's a lot of fear amongst people.
There is.
Are you seeing that, ma'am, in your credit union, in your community?
I don't see it as much in our credit union right now because we're kind of at the early stage of adopting different phases of AI. But yes, I do. And I think what's happened is that when if this kind of conversation was happening 30 years ago, we didn't have the social media presence we had today. So there's this fears and phobias that come in, whether you know something is true or not, but it creates that phobia that immediately technology is going to replace my job.
Yeah.
And I think what we have to do is shift that conversation to say it will replace your job if you don't learn how to use it to make your job better. And in the credit union space, for example, we have so many come from a smaller credit union. We have so small to mid-sized credit unions that are very still hand one-on-one with the members, but that takes a lot of time. And it takes time away from developing new products and being innovative. And so where the balance comes in, and this is where we need to do better in our movement, is to basically, how do we diffuse that fear by say, we want to adopt this AI or this technology, but by doing that, you're going to free up X number of hours or days every month to do the thing that you're really good at, which is helping that new mother or that new divorcee or that new young couple and really give them the human side of who you are and the empathy that doesn't come with machines. Can be adapted, but it's not the real human touch, and let the human do what we're made to do, and that's to interact with people in a way that makes people feel wanted and needed and encouragement.
I see. And you spoke about that we as humans, at least most of us, crave that
Yeah.
human connection. And in your opinion, ma'am, where does this craving come from?
I mean, I think it's just generational. I mean, however we want to believe on how we were created. I think when you think you can look at this from a physiological standpoint or an anatomical standpoint, chemical, whatever. But I think there's an innate part of each of us that, has the opportunity. And I think we have a responsibility to keep those connections, because I think this is how we continue to have humanity. As a human, again, there's a level of trust that I think is needed, that you can read the body language, you can feel the sense of energy that's pulling from each of us that you don't get from artificial intelligence or other forms of technology. And, just the way the human is made, there's a difference. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it was humans that have invented the technology.
Yeah.
And we will continue, I think, to need that brain power to continue to elevate what we're doing in technology so that it does make our lives easier and more effective. But again, allows us to free up the time to do the things that we need to do on a personal level that allow us to continue to feel human.
Yeah. Especially what I feel is when people are going through challenging times, people are vulnerable.
Yes.
They at times feel very desperate. Financial challenges. I've been through some of those when I was a young student, graduate student in America. And at that point of time, just being able to talk to another human and being able to trust.
Yeah.
Or that comfort, the emotional comfort that you get.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I don't disagree. I mean, when we think about when we talk to a counselor, for example, I mean, I know, some of the doctors I go to, the first thing they bring into the room is, do you mind if I use my AI to record all our notes? That's important because I've seen doctors' handwriting, and a lot of time there is a lot of room for misinterpretation of
Exactly.
things. So AI can help couple, the ability to do better, to have better diagnosis, and you know, think about this in the credit union system as like a financial counselor, for example. If I'm able to use the AI and the technology to run a cash flow or a synopsis of an individual that's only taking me 5 minutes versus 2 days,
Yeah.
right? That gives me more time to spend with this person
Yeah.
to help kind of unpackage the things that may be bothering them. And our technology is allowing us, instead of just saying, "Hey, I know you have a problem. Let's pull your credit score. Let's do a budget." Now it's given us the time to say, AI can do that.
Yeah.
And I can sit here and say, you know, what was the reason for you coming in today? And then let them engage in that conversation. And then you're going to find out maybe they just did get a divorce and never had credit before. Maybe this was the first time they ever came into a financial institution because they never had to take care of finances before. And that allows us to have this emotional connection and have those dynamics and those conversations that, one, you're creating a relationship, but also it can bring out a whole deeper level of information that allows us to combine our human intelligence with the artificial intelligence to come up with that hyper personalized experience for them.
Yeah. Okay. What a beautiful conversation.
I've loved it. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one last question
Okay.
for you, my lady. This really touched my heart. Was when you spoke about you became the primary caregiver for your father
Yes,
and you used AI for journaling.
I did.
So I'm just curious, and it's okay if you don't want to share. What were you journaling and why?
So, I've been an active caregiver for my parents for 12 years. My dad had a couple of strokes, and my mom has Alzheimer's. But I was always so busy that trying to manually write a lot of this, I would get caught up in a couple of sentences and I would get distracted.
Yeah.
And then I would lose my chain of thought.
Yeah.
But it was important because there were things that I was experiencing every day that were frustrating, that were draining. There were joyous moments. And I just could not capture them all on just physical, even typing on a computer. But what I had done is I had used my AI and some of my agents that I had developed that could help fill in some of the holes. And actually, I would have it read what I had wrote and provide some feedback of some things to say, had you thought about this? Look at this resource. And it was amazing that while my father passed Christmas, the 5 weeks that I got with him in hospice is really when I started journaling, helped me to level up this experience on that last 5 weeks and to think about things that I wouldn't normally have thought about and to ask questions that I wouldn't have thought about because you get so involved in the day to day human side that sometimes you need a little bit of help to think about things that you don't have at your disposal. And so, like I said, it was the journaling helped me to bring out those frustrations, the grief. I mean, things that you're just going through that you sometimes have put your life on hold
Yeah.
but life doesn't hold for you.
Yeah.
And so this allowed me to have that continuum 24/7 of just being able to re-plug in to where I had left off and using responsibly the AI to help me fill in some of the holes or to help me understand what I was going through. I mean, it was fascinating. By the end of the day, there would be times when I was exhausted and I would come in and do some of my journaling and my agent would come back um, and say, your writing right now is not the same as it was 3 weeks ago. Are you okay?
Wow.
And then I would say, no, I've had a bad day. One of our caregivers is, done X, Y, and Z. And, then it would come back and say, why don't we try some breathing? Like, really, I hate to say it, became very human like, but
Wow.
will never replace the human.
Yes.
So,
Almost like a thought partner for you.
yes, but what it allowed me to do also is I shared that experience. So I would post the vulnerability out there every day
Yeah.
on Facebook and LinkedIn, just so that I could be accountable to doing this every day to capture this story. It has opened up some doors for hopefully me connecting with other people as a pay it forward thing. And a lot of that was because AI learned me and helped me through a difficult time when I had to disconnect from my ordinary world. I disconnected from my job. I disconnected from friends because I had to take care of what was in front of me. And AI was a big part of that, but so was my human side.
If I may summarize it, it's almost like human by AI. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's just such a heartwarming story.
Well, like I said, machines don't have heartwarming stories, humans do.